to launch. It's a beautiful day. I wish we could do this outside, but I didn't think that would go over real well on live camera. Um, but I have some exciting news that Charlie will be rolling out in more detail, but there's a very likely possibility that the next launch class will be available in person. So we're working out the details of that, and if there's a way we can still continue to record these for your reference. But I would anticipate that the week of Memorial Day that we won't have class, but it sounds like probably by June we'll be doing this in person as an option, which could be very good. So we'll have, we'll still be distancing ourselves and all of that, but could be a great opportunity to do some more workshop style classes, which I think would be very beneficial, more hands-on. So more to come on that. And in the meantime, this is a good kickoff towards that direction. I don't know if you realize it, but we are at the point where any new transactions coming in are almost going to be the second half of the year closings. So right now we're in mid-May, and that means that, if you count out your earliest closings, if you write in a contract, get it accepted today, then it could still close in June. But in the next week or two, that will probably mean that you're looking at closings in July. So we are basically halfway through the real estate year. And there is much to be done to make sure that the second half of the year is awesome. And if you're, going towards your goals for 2021, maybe you fell off course with those goals, maybe you didn't write them down, you weren't sure what they were, maybe you feel totally lost. This is your opportunity to reset, get back on track, set those goals for the second half of the year, give yourself, a week or two to really get those things lined up in your planner, in your plans, written somewhere where you can see them, making that a goal that's broken down to days of the week or per week, what you're going to be doing, and really set yourself up for success for the rest of the year. So, the spring market is still very much happening. The numbers this morning that Charlie was sharing with us show that there is still much business to be had. There's still a lot of activity. There is that possibility that summer fun and fall concerts are going to pull some people away from the market, but there's still business to be had. Regardless of what the market's doing, successful agents always have business. So do you want to be one of those successful agents that always has business regardless of the market, or do you want to blame the market for not having business? And how do successful agents always have business? They set goals, they make plans, and they follow through. Seems really simple, but it's what a lot of people don't do. So this is your chance to get those things lined up for the second half of the year. How are we going to do that? So for me, when I'm planning, I always go back to my planner, which is built off of my big three. So big three for me is the most important things that I need to get done for the year. Big three is the most important things I need to get done in the quarter, which probably have a connection to those big three for the year. It's the major three things I want to accomplish within that month, which also connect to my quarterly goals, which also connect to my yearly goal. And then I break it down by week. There's big three for the week. And then there's a big three each day. So it sounds like a lot, but they're really all small pieces of something leading up to that big goal. It's all related. I think when I started back with using a planner, I'd always used one in my school days. And then I thought once I graduated, I couldn't use one anymore because I'm an adult now. Turns out still great to have. Works for me. Figure out what system works for you. But the thing that I think people confuse is when you have that big goal for the year and your goal for the quarter and your goal for the month and your goal for the week and your goal for the day, people think they're all different things and it feels overwhelming. That is not the case. When you're thinking about what you want to accomplish for the year and, should be revisiting that at this point in the year, then let's look at that as pieces of getting to that point. So right now we've got an entire half of the year left. That's awesome. You have plenty of time to make the most of 2021. Maybe the first half wasn't so great. Maybe it started out pretty good and you kind of lost momentum. Maybe you're just starting to get momentum. Whatever the case, you are at a point where you have tremendous opportunity to really kick some butt the rest of the year, really do some great business, really build your connections with people and your pipeline and your leads and your business. There is plenty of time to do that. So it's not, let's take summer vacation and just like forget about everything we're doing with our businesses, unless that's what you want to do. But then know that that means for the next 90 plus days from that point that you decide to take off, you're probably not going to have a whole ton of business. So this is the time to make those plans and be proactive. If you do have a trip or something planned, you have kids coming home from school, maybe they just started going back, you are working around those things with your plans. So what I recommend having is a big 3 for the second half of the year. Now these, if you set goals for the whole year of 2021 and you had big 3 for those, if those are still realistic, then just keep those as your big 3 for the second half of the year. Is there anybody who has at least one of those big goals for the second half of the year or for this year that you'd be willing to share?
Sure. I'll say something, a project that I've been working on is going through like the offer to purchase, excuse me, and really understanding and explaining the terms. So I've been practicing with other, agents on our team. I've been doing Zooms with other people, but really making that a focus to like, I need to write it out, visualize it, kind of have like a flow chart written out to then help me like best explain that to my clients. So that's kind of been a big project that I've been working on.
That's awesome. That's a great goal, Benji. And especially when you're new, but even when you're not, it's really good to go back and really ensure that you know those documents. And they change, right? Every few years, they get adjusted by the GMAR. And so it's a good thing to go back through and be familiar with. But when you're new, that's huge. Feeling confident in understanding that contract. Benji, do you feel like now that you have a good grasp on that, that you're much more confident moving forward with anybody who is looking to purchase a home?
Yeah, absolutely. It's just when it comes time to drafting an offer and explaining the components of it, I'm just more confident and able to explain it in a clearer way. So
Do you
yeah,
feel like that gives you better momentum too when you get new buyers? You're like, okay, I'm not going to worry about when we get to that point because I already know I've got it down.
exactly. I always get ahead of myself, but it's like that's gonna come that discussion comes later, and I have time to hold off on that.
Awesome. So having the confidence in those basic skills, those important things that we're responsible for, that's a fantastic project goal. So when you're looking at your goals or your big 3, thinking of them in terms of either project goals or accomplishment or what am I calling these? I have to double check my notes. Achievement goals are the 2 types of goals that you can be setting. So those big 3, having a project goal is a good idea as one of your 3 things. What I find to be helpful and to give me some of that counterbalance that I'm looking for between business and life is that I have a project goal that's usually work related, business related. I have an achievement goal that is always aimed at my transaction goal for the year. So number of closed happy clients or the commission goal that I have that's broken down by number of people I'm going to be working with that I want to sell homes to. So I always have that achievement goal, which is directly connected to leads and the results of my business. And then I have a project goal that is going to enhance my business and how I serve my clients in some way or another, which for you really should be something as simple as really getting down the offer to purchase, being comfortable with it, understanding all of it, being able to explain it, having practice walking through it, being able to do that efficiently and understand what's in there and answer questions. That's huge because you can find all the leads you want, get all the people who want to work with you. But if you can't write a successful offer, you're not getting anywhere. So that's a great project goal to have. The third one I usually have a personal goal. And my personal goal oftentimes ties to my work goal, or benefits my work and personal life. So a good one that I started with a number of years ago was to set up my morning routine. So that's a personal goal. It affects how I feel about the day. It affects my health. It affects how I walk into my work day. But it's more of a personal side of things. And so that was a good one for me to start with because it's a way to kick off your day. And that can be broken down to, a few different steps to get you to the point where you're kind of working on that as a habit. So that's more of a habit goal than an achievement goal, and it's building that routine. So you can choose a number of different things. I find it to be helpful to have that outline to say, I've always got my achievement goal of how many people I want to help get to the closing table with a smile on their face. And I want to have a project goal that relates to my business. And then that project goal might not take up the whole, half of the year, might not take up the whole quarter, but it could. So recognizing that these don't have to be stuck with this time frame. If it's a project, especially, you might have two smaller project goals within that time. That's fine. And then to do a personal goal that is just a quality of life, something that's going to have a positive effect on my business and my life, I find to be really motivating. So it's not that every single one of my three are business related, because we are whole people and we don't work all the time, or we shouldn't, right? So those are the three things I want you to think about. Based on that outline, is there anything that you've been working on already that you're going to continue into the second half of the year as one of your big three, or anything that you're realizing really should be one of your big three?
I'll go. I'm actually, to your point, like in my personal life, I'm trying to get my morning routine back on track. I was victim of the pandemic and lost my job before I got into real estate. So
Yeah.
I very quickly was like, oh, it's nice to sleep in, but you don't realize like that's a terrible habit to get into. So now that I'm in real estate and I'm dedicated to growing my business, it's really something that I have to focus on, like getting up at the same time every day, like getting
Mhm.
my morning routine down, making sure I have my favorite breakfast. Otherwise, like you said, the start to your day is not going to be very productive, So that's
Yeah.
something I'm working on. And then work related, I'm huge with marketing and social media, so I've really been focused on trying to grow that and get all the pieces put together and reconnect with my network of friends and colleagues and stuff. That's been keeping me really busy, and I'm looking forward to seeing that grow and just reconnecting with people. It's been really exciting, and I've been getting a lot of like really interesting leads and kind of collab ideas from them. So
That's
it's been
great.
exciting, but it's going to be a long-term project that I have to stick with, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, those are great, Jennifer. Yeah, I would say for many of us, especially when you're first transitioning into working for yourself, getting into some sort of routine can be difficult. And likewise, if you're already in a routine because you have kids and there's the school day, well, summer's coming and everything's going to change. My husband teaches a class in the mornings at a high school nearby, and so my routine is set to that. Well, once he's on summer schedule, I know I need to stay with my plan and still get up at the same time and stick to my routine. So it's something to be aware of now. But if you haven't really had the opportunity to build that up, or you've kind of fallen off course, what a great time to reset and just give yourself a first step of some thinking time this week. So set aside an hour where you're completely uninterrupted and not distracted, which this is coming from somebody who very obviously has ADD. So I totally understand the need to have a focused, uninterrupted time to really get something accomplished. And then put together your thoughts on what you want that morning routine to be. And if you can't think of the items that you need to do during that time, think about how you want to feel when you start your day. How do you want to feel when that morning routine is over? what are you looking to accomplish by having that morning routine? So like you need to be dressed, you want to feel refreshed and energized. So probably some kind of activity that's, physical, taking a walk, doing exercise, yoga, something like that could be good. Making sure that you are, feed your brain and your body for the day. So like you said, having your favorite breakfast, or having, throwing your granola bar in your bag or whatever it is, having that good start to the day can be a great project to work on, or habit to build for the second half of the year. And if it's like, well, that seems like a lot of time to do this, well, focus on the quarter. Okay, this quarter, I really want to establish that routine. It takes 60 days to really solidify a routine, according to research, and what seems to be the kind of the in-between number for when people really need to solidify in order to solidify their routine. So 60 days of doing that regularly. You don't have to do it on Saturdays and Sundays if whatever your off days are, but doing that consistently, whatever that habit is or routine is, can be very good. Another one could be your workday startup, getting your mind right, getting set up, being ready to go and focus. And the first thing you do is, maybe it's you go through your, your leads for the week and make sure your appointments are set, or you're making your plan for your social media or whatever it is. You could also set up a routine for your workday shutdown, which does add to your quality of life outside of work, because it's you saying, I'm going to take this 45 minutes, hour, half hour, whatever it is, to wrap up my workday and then be present in my life outside of work. You could also have an evening routine that you're putting together, and your personal goal doesn't have to be a routine, but it's one of those major things that you can change in your day that can have a huge impact and can really have a positive effect on your business as well. So that may be a good thing to do for your personal goal, or one of your big three, your personal big item for the second half of the year, for the quarter, for the month, the week, and the day. So breaking that down, starting with some thinking time, is a good thing to do. Just think about, how am I going to make this happen? You can't just start a habit, right? You have to know what the pieces of that habit are. So what are the, 3 things I'm going to do, or I have to make sure I do in my morning? How much time do I need? What time am I going to regularly get up? So just to give you an example of how to break that down. So when you are setting up these goals, or your big 3, it doesn't mean day 1 you have to start the habit. Be realistic about it. This requires some planning. This requires me knowing exactly what I should be doing, trying it out, and then building the routine from there. So having a full quarter to do it gives you an additional 2 or 3 weeks to put it together, think it through, test it out, maybe get some materials you need for that, right? I have to get a new alarm clock. I don't want to put my phone right by my bed, so I don't look at it first thing in the morning, or whatever it is. I got to get a yoga mat. I got to sign up for a class, or, get that treadmill from somebody on Facebook Marketplace, whatever it is. Get those things in place, and then give yourself your 60 days to build that habit. And then give yourself a little bit of time at the end. That 13th week of the quarter is a great time to reflect, review, make tweaks for the rest of the year, for the next quarter, set those new goals. So it's a really nice time to give yourself that, looking at how things went, and then deciding how to move forward, instead of just jamming into the next top 3 for the next quarter. So when it comes to your production goal, which I think everybody should have, and I think is especially good for you to have when you're starting out, I just like to keep that as a standard. It is my guiding light. It is the thing that I go back to anytime I feel like I'm off course, if I feel like I have had a bad week, if I feel like I just feel a little lost. That's the first thing I go to is, am I accomplishing what I needed to this week to get me to that production goal, that one big thing for the quarter, for the year, for the rest of the year? And if I'm not doing those activities, that's what gets me back on track. And I'm telling you guys, this is always the same thing. It's always really straightforward. It is super basic. It is simple, but it's not easy. It's something you have to do consistently. And that is reaching out to people and connecting with people. We talk about leads all the time for good reason. It's what will build your business. It's what will continue to keep your business growing and going. You can't stop doing activities to get leads, even when you have a big business, or that will dry up. So it's always a good goal to have. And that's not just from the perspective of, I want to do better this half of the year than I did last half of the year. Be specific. So how many happy clients do you want to close before the end of the year? How many more do you want to close on new purchases, new sales, whatever it is? Okay, if you can't figure out what that number is, because for you it's more about what is my income going to be, then go into command, go into goals, and start with your GCI, your gross commission income. How much money you would like to make by the end of the year, keeping in mind that that is pre-tax and that's before your cap pay-in. So you may need to do a little math there to figure out, well, taxes are probably about a third or so, and 27,000 is my pay-in. Unless you're on a team, it might be different, but making sure you understand whatever that number is that you're aiming for. Maybe it's what you need to live on for the year if you don't have a partner, or if you just have your portion that you're responsible for. Have that number in mind, then translate that to your gross commission income, and then use command to break it down. So you're going to have to use an average commission per sale, which if you haven't had many sales can be kind of hard to figure out. So think about the area where you expect to serve, any sales you've had so far. What is your sale price looking like? And then figure out your commission from that. And you could maybe pump it up a little bit higher to give yourself that incentive to push and head for an awesome goal that's higher than you need. And then break it down into how many leads you need. So we'll do more of this in person, and it's something that's built into command. It's very straightforward. It's set up like a big funnel. So if you're, what you want for your gross commission income at the end of the year is at the bottom, you work backwards. Well, then how many transactions do I need? And how many do I need to get under contract? How many people do I need to sign buyer agency or a listing contract? How many people do I need to have appointments that happen? How many people do I need to schedule appointments with? How many people do I need to talk to and make direct connection with? And how many leads do I need? And it ends up being a big funnel, because not every lead becomes a closing, right? So you have to build out. Now, if you are thinking you want to have 8 closings between now and the end of the year, so anything you're writing on now might still close in June, but in the next couple of weeks, that's going to be July or later, right? Because we're talking 30 or so days out from your accepted offer that it closes. If you are very conservative and say that half of the people that you have as a lead become a contact, that's very conservative. The 75% is what they're putting in command. But if you said 50%, just as an example, if I wanted to close on 8 transactions, that means I need to have 12 people with written agreements of buyer agency or listing contracts. That means I need to have 18 appointments that people show up for. I need to schedule 27 appointments, which again, this is very conservative. I would guess that most of the appointments you make, people show up for. I would need 40 contacts, and I would need 61 leads. 61 leads leads me to 8 closings. Now, like I said, that's very conservative. It could be a lower number to start with to get you to your 8 closings, but that's how that system's set up. And that's what you should go back to. If you're like, okay, well, I know that last year I sold this many homes, or the first half of the year I sold this many homes. This is how many people I want to help in the second half of the year. Then build it out that way. Now, if you have about 60 people that you need to have as lead contacts in the second half of the year, how many people do you have to contact a month? How many leads do you need a month? You've got 6 months left in the year. You've got 60 people. 10, right? You need 10 contacts a month, 10 new leads a month. So how are you going to get there? That's when you get to be creative and figure out what works best for you. So these are the pieces that come together to work you towards your goal. It's not just to say, well, I want to sell 8 homes, the end. And then you just kind of like work hard until the year ends, right? No, there is a formula to this. There is a very obvious path to this. And so it's just a matter of setting yourself up for success. So if I know I need to contact, I have 10 new leads a month. That means in this quarter, I need at least 30 new leads, 10 per month. And knowing that the end of the year is a little slower because of the holidays, I'm going to say I want 40 leads this quarter. And that way, if I don't hit that goal, I know that next quarter, I might have to push some into that quarter. So 40 new leads for this quarter, I'm talking, 10 to 15 per month. So I need to have at least 3 to 4 leads a week. And how am I going to do that? So giving yourself the thinking time to plan. This is why we're talking about this early, before June is over, to start putting those things in place. So what am I going to do? I'm going to really beef up my social media. I am going to make sure that I'm connecting with 3 new people a week or 4 new people a week. Maybe you're starting up networking again. Maybe you're flyering a neighborhood or sending notes out to a neighborhood. So trying to get those leads going, it's a wider net that you cast, and your hope is to get a good return on the people you're actually connecting with. So breaking that down from how many I want to connect with, built off of how many sales you want to have by the end of the year, that's going to help you figure out what your activities should be every week, and then break it down by day. Does that make sense? So it should really be very digestible, small steps. It should not be an overwhelming, massive weight on your shoulders with no path. This is about breaking this down into smaller steps so that it's something very manageable. Do you think that you could make new contact with 3 people a week? Is that doable? 3 new leads? Yeah. So it's not anything overwhelming. And if you're like, oh, 8 closings by the end of the year, that's not enough for me. I need 10, build it out that way. But when you break it down to that weekly goal, it's so much more manageable. It's so much more achievable. It's not as overwhelming. And then you can make progress, right? Have you ever had a big goal where it just like sits in front of you like this big gorilla, and you just can't, it's too much. You can't even look at it. You don't want to deal with it. You do everything but that thing because it's so overwhelming. You don't know how you're going to get there. So breaking it down into these little bitty bits makes it so much more manageable. It's just a teeny little monkey that you can handle and deal with on a weekly basis, right? So that's one thing to do when it comes to one of your major 3 items for the rest of the year, for the quarter, is look at your production goal, break it down into those smaller bites. And when you need accountability to make sure you are doing those things, that's when you set up a call with me. So if you were supposed to make new contacts with 3 or 5 people this week, then what I'm going to ask you each week is, how many new leads do you have? What did you do to get those leads? Did it work? What didn't work? What are you going to do differently next week? Very simple, right? Just having that moment where you are going to be accountable to actually doing these activities, right? If you've got all this freedom and all this time to yourself, sometimes you need to have that structure that you build for yourself. So that project goal then, like Benji's doing his offer to purchase, I think that's a great project goal. I think it's something that you could very likely take care of within 1 quarter. Or depending on how much time you're spending on it, could even be a halfway point through the quarter. And then you could take on another project of maybe the listing contract. We have so many resources that you can use at any time of day, watching the videos, setting up a time to go through those documents with Joan or Andy through the helpline. You've got so many great resources in each other agents in our offices. So having those things down pat are really great project goals. They seem boring, they seem not glamorous, not as fun, but they're so important to you doing your job well and having the confidence to take on new clients. And there's something to be said about having that energy out into the universe that you are ready to write a stellar offer with somebody. So being in that position, the way you can get there with that confidence is to actually take the time to really set yourself up for success with those documents. So that's a great project goal. Other project goals could be, working on making sure you understand the contract to close process. And maybe part of that is connecting with Renee and our great transaction coordinators. That is an option for you. Renee spoke in the meeting this morning. They are there to help you with your paperwork from the time an offer is accepted until closing. And maybe you just want to look more into that. You've been hesitant to take advantage of that opportunity because you feel like you need to know what's happening before you have someone else do it. So maybe your project goal is to just feel like you have a good grasp on that process. And a great way to do that, the best way to learn something is to have to teach it to somebody, right? So having yourself in the position of teaching your clients is going to force you to really understand that stuff. So for me, the easiest thing to do was to put together my buyer consultation packet. And I have a step-by-step from accepted offer to closing that I share with my clients. In order to put that together, I had to understand what happens in the transaction. So for me, that was a physical accomplishment, a completed project was to have that document done and feel good about it. And then I had it for my buyer consultations. So working up to that, I was making sure I understood all the backstory on how to get from contract to close. I interviewed other agents. I talked to title. I talked to lenders. I talked to inspectors. I talked to appraisers. So that was a project. But from that, I gained experience and knowledge that made me more confident, that made me better serve my clients. And at the end, I had a document I had put together that I can share with my clients to help them through the process. So that's a great project goal. And it's helping you learn something you need to know. So just because you maybe don't have someone under contract right now doesn't mean you can't learn what is involved. You could even ask to shadow somebody on an inspection or, talk to someone else about the process. There are so many other options because it is a little bit of a cycle, right? It's a little chicken and egg. If you're like, well, I don't know how it works because I haven't done it before, and I haven't done it before because I don't know how it works. So how am I supposed to figure this out? Setting something like this as a project goal is a great idea. So highly recommend some of those basic pieces of the job. Now, are there other things you're going to do to get your business going? Yes. If you're working on your social media, that could be a project that also connects to your achievement goal of how many contacts you need to make a week, to building your lead generation, to getting you to your transaction goal, right? So they do connect to each other, and they should. That's okay. You don't have to make these so massive and so separate from each other that it's too much to do. These should be something you can accomplish that give you that direction. How am I supposed to be spending my day today? You should be able to ask yourself that question at any point and have those major 3 things tell you what you should be doing right now, right? Like, I just feel like I wasted 2 hours on Instagram doom scrolling. I was watching TikTok for an hour. I didn't do anything. What the heck am I supposed to be doing right now? Or shoot, I overslept. I feel like I've wasted the day. What can I do to make myself feel like I've accomplished something this week or today, right? What is something I can do to feel like I'm making progress towards my goals? It's so easy to feel stuck and off track and a little lost in the world when you don't have those things in place. And sometimes you forget about them or you get distracted, and it's something you can come back to. What are my big 3 for the rest of the year? What are my big 3 for the quarter? Based on those big 3 for the quarter, what are my big 3 for the month, and how am I doing that each week and each day? That should help keep you on track and guide you. If you hunker down and focus on those 3 things and get them done, you will see results. You will. They might not be immediate, right? Everything about this business is a little bit further out, 30, 60, 90 days. So it's about building that base. It's about getting yourself the confidence. It's about having the guidance of how you should be very intentional with your time, how to best use your time. As you get busier, it gets harder to find time to do things. So knowing what your priorities are is really important. And if you stick with these things, it will happen quickly. I mean, you can see people who've graduated from this program. Aletha Champagne, she's got her own team. She's killing it this year. Peter Grossman, he barely just graduated from this program and he's doing an awesome job. It can happen quickly, and suddenly your time goes into overdrive and you've got to figure out where your priorities are. So all along the way, it's an important guidance to have, whether you're doing a lot of business or not. It's going to keep you on track, make the best use of your time. And it doesn't mean you need to spend 8 hours a day doing this. If you can, in a focused way, get these things accomplished on a daily basis, you can consider yourself successful for the day. Then maybe do something fun that also benefits your business. Maybe do a networking thing. Maybe figure out your social media. Maybe volunteer. There are so many other ways that you can enhance your life and your business that aren't these specific tasks each day. But if you can get those 3 things done per week, per month, per quarter, whatever those little tasks are leading up to those big goals, that's what we're aiming for. And it seems so simple and also a little overwhelming. So taking the time to really figure out what these things are is why we're talking about it right now, right? The next half of the year doesn't start until July 1st, but we've got Memorial Day in there. We've got 4th of July in there. The weather's getting nicer. It's going to be harder and harder to stay focused. So thinking about these things now is really important. And the more you are drawn to the ultimate big goal for the rest of the year, the more they're connected to your needs and your why and what you care most about, the more you're going to be focused and incentivized to get those things to happen. Right. So it's a means to an end to some degree, but it also should be tied to something important to you. So it's a lot to consider, but I think breaking it down into those 3 things as being your production goal, which is an achievement goal, your project goal, something related to your business, and your personal goal, which very likely may be a habit that you're trying to build, or could be some other kind of project. But those 3 things, if you really just focus on 3 things for the rest of the year, for the quarter, that will guide you and keep you on track and help you see progress. Because the other benefit of it is when you know what you need to do and you have it specifically laid out, then maybe you're having a crummy week. Like, I haven't had an accepted offer in 2 weeks and I'm freaking out. And then I go look at my transactions chart where I'm tracking how many people I have closed, how many people I have under contract. And I'm like, oh, I'm going to kill it this quarter. I know that I need next quarter to go well as well, but I can take a little bit of a breath and maybe take advantage of the opportunity to reconnect with some people I haven't talked to in a while. I'm getting back to my lead generation. I'm getting back to that. I'm still keeping my active people going. So there's something I can give myself a breath to focus on something different because I know I'm on track with my lead generation and production goals. So it's a really nice way. Most of the time I find it to just remind me that I'm doing fine. If you feel like you're not, but you're like, you know what, this is what I said I would do. And though I'm not seeing immediate results, they're going to come. And I know that I'm making progress towards that goal because that's what's most important to me. That's where I need to prioritize my time. This is how I'm being intentional with my use of my time every day, every week, and then building up to those bigger goals. It's all connected. It shouldn't feel so piecemeal and scattered because you know what your major things are you need to focus on. And once you get through that project goal, great. start up a new project goal. You know, there's lots of things that you need to learn and figure out, but you can't do it all at once. You know, multitasking is a myth. Nobody can focus on multiple things at once and do them well. So just tackle those things one at a time, set them up as a goal, break them down to manageable bites, and then get through them and move on. Don't spend your time feeling bad or overwhelmed. Just get it on paper or in your planner or on your computer or your phone so that you know, what am I supposed to be doing right now? How should I be using my time? Because that is the major stuff that it's about, right? None of us have all of the things figured out and done, right? There's a million things I could still learn about MLS. There's my social media has been crap for the last like 3 weeks. I got other stuff going on. I know I can get back to that. Like, you can't do everything perfectly all the time. So pick the important stuff that gets you results and get through it, and then pick a different thing, right? Don't waste your time feeling bad about the stuff you're not doing. Just focus on the stuff you know is going to get you to where you want to go. That's what the top 3 is about. So this is a great time to start thinking about that. If you're not sure what your top 3 should be, take some thinking time, take an uninterrupted hour where you can just brainstorm all the things that you want to accomplish the rest of the year. Or maybe think about, 3 years from now or 5 years from now, and then kind of eliminate the things down to what's really important in the now. Taking the time to really recognize those things is great. If you have a partner, involve them in it, or share with them what your top 3 are so they understand where your priorities lie and what you're trying to accomplish. And maybe they hold you accountable a little bit too. So it's really that straightforward and simple, but it does take some focus. It takes some intentional planning. It really means you have to keep yourself on track. But once it's there, if you fall off track, if you feel lost, if you're feeling bad about what you've accomplished or haven't accomplished, then you can come back to these 3 things and know what you should be doing. And if at any point you feel like whatever bite you're supposed to take today is too big, break it down into something smaller. It can be ridiculously simple. Okay, I need to connect with 5 people this week. That means I need to connect with 1 person today. I just don't know if I have the energy or the focus to do it. What do I need to do to connect with at least 1 person today? One small thing. Okay, I'm going to go on social media. I'm going to give myself a timer of 15 minutes. I'm going to go in and scroll. I'm going to find somebody I know who I haven't talked to in a while, and I'm going to comment on their page. Or I'm going to send a direct message to somebody. Like somebody maybe I haven't met before. I'm going to put myself out there and try to attract some comments from people. So it could be one small thing that feels silly because it's such a small thing, but you are making strides towards that bigger goal. It's really that straightforward. I can't express it enough. Life becomes very complicated, but when it comes down to it, this is what you got to get back to. This is what I come back to when I feel off track. I'm like, oh, shoot, I totally forgot about my personal goal this quarter. No wonder I'm exhausted. I need to refocus. I was supposed to be taking a day off a week. I've not done anything to do that. Just simply saying I'll take a day off a week is not enough. I've had to learn to proactively connect with my buyers at the beginning of the week and find out their schedule, and really connect with people Thursday and Friday to try to schedule showings for Thursday, Friday, and Saturday so that I can have off on Sunday, and be proactive about when I'm writing offers and leave an open time on Saturday at the end of the day to write those offers. Like, there are all these steps leading up to that were much more manageable, something I can handle, rather than just saying, I'm going to take a day off and being like, that's impossible. This market's crazy. No, it's not impossible. If you have a plan, you can make it happen. You're the driver. You're in charge. This is your business. Figure it out ahead of time. Make a plan, write it down, stick to it, come back to it. Yeah, Gail.
So how do you plan time to write offers? I find myself like, I show something, it's at the end of the day because that's when they were available. And then I spend all night writing an offer to submit it in this fast market. How do you plan for that?
Yeah, it can be crazy, and it's tricky in this market. The nice thing is we know most of the time when they're reviewing offers. So you can kind of plan according to that. And I tell my buyers up front when they're interested in looking at a property, It's one of the first things I tell them. Okay, so you want to see it on Sunday night. Their plan is to review offers on Monday morning. That's probably not our best situation to get you in a good position to be an accepted offer. So we want to make sure there's time to go through this offer. We've never written an offer together before. This is your first time. It's going to take at least an hour. So how about, based on that information, how about we try for this time for showing to proactively try to get them in sooner? And if this is somebody who's like shooting you a listing on Saturday night for Sunday, and that listing's been up since Friday, but you weren't the one that sent it to them, you waited till they sent it to you, you could proactively make a plan. I'm going to hit the hot sheet on Friday like 3 times. My whole goal on Friday is to schedule my showings for Friday evening and Saturday to avoid the Sunday crunch. And you do the best you can. Most new listings don't come out on Sunday. A majority of listings don't even come out on Saturday. It's usually Thursday or Friday or some random day during the week. So there are those times when you're going to have those late night offer writing sessions, but there are also ways you can avoid that and take control. And a lot of times buyers are just kind of lost and just going off of their own schedule because they're not given any fences, right? They have no parameters to work off of. So if you're like, okay, here's what's happening. I am not available after 8 p.m. on Sunday. So if you want to write an offer, we need to start your offer at 6:30 on Sunday. So if you want to write an offer at 6:30, we need to look at the house by 5. And then we have to decide by 6:30 and be writing the offer by 6:30. I'm giving you parameters. This is what's happening, right? Like anything else you do with a professional has time frames and restrictions, and you just go with what they say because they're the expert, right? So giving them those guidelines instead of waiting until you're in the middle of it and you're frustrated and they're tired and nobody's eaten yet and everybody just wants to be done. Like that's not a great situation. It's not a good experience for anybody. It's not going to motivate them to want to like keep working with you and tell their friends, right? So at the end of the day, being proactive about that stuff as much as possible is the best thing to do. It does take some effort in advance, and sometimes you're just tired or you got other stuff going on and you can't avoid it. But there are ways to just set things in place. Like every Friday, I'm going to be on that hot sheet. I'm going to be sending people properties. I'm going to be paying attention to, what's going on with listings. I, this weekend, decided that every Tuesday, I'm checking in with my buyers to find out what their schedule is for the week. Are you out of town this weekend? Do you have stuff going on at night? What do your Friday and Saturday look like? Because then I can, in advance, figure out who am I likely going to be showing properties to, who is likely going to be writing offers, and have they written offers before? So it'll be quick, or is this the first time? So it's going to take a longer time. And just sort of engineering those schedules for those days based on when they're going to be available, knowing that there's going to be a few properties popping up here and there. And, if I schedule it out and I've got like an open window of a few hours, stellar. I've got other stuff I can work on, or I can give myself a freaking break. Like you do everything you can to make the best use of your time and your client's time. And a lot of that takes that proactive planning in advance. And sometimes you're writing an offer at 11 p.m. It happens once in a while. Yeah, that's a great question. So based on this information, I'm curious, who has some goals in place? Who's tried this? Have you had challenges kind of breaking these things down further? Is this something you'd like to do in a workshop format now that we're going to be back in the office coming soon? What are your thoughts on putting that together? Where do you see the roadblocks in this process of having your top 3 established? Anyone? It's working great. You're doing fine. You've got it figured out.
Hi, I'll just go. I like the thought of maybe having it this be more of like a workshop type thing, or touching on the subject a little bit more.
Okay.
As the weeks go by, I think it's important, and also to just sometimes be flexible too. And you may not even realize that you need to be flexible in your plans and your goals. So I think like a workshop type setting, or just even having an open forum like we are today on this subject might help us all keep on track of our goals. So.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. It it can feel overwhelming because there's so much to do. And I think that I'm going to tell you that doesn't go away. If you're aware, if you're a great leader, that never goes away. You're always going to feel like you have 1,000 things to do to be better at this business and just at being an adult person in life, right? So figuring out those top 3 can be overwhelming at times. I saw Natalie's note. I think a good point is, how do you figure out what's most important? I'm going to tell you right now, your production goal, your productivity goal, your number of closed transactions, that's number 1 most important. Put that on your list of top 3. Now you have one. The next thing, as far as projects go, I think it comes down to the basics. What should you be doing to make sure that you are confident in this job? And that comes down to the simple things like Benji did, going through the offer to purchase, knowing that contract, understanding how to talk somebody through it, knowing how that translates into the transaction, because that's a major deal. If you get somebody who is agreeing to waiving their inspection, waiving their appraisal, do you understand what that means? And can you explain it to them? Because what's going to happen is you're going to get them in that position. They're going to get an accepted offer. Yay. And then it's going to appraise 30,000 less than the purchase price. And they don't have a way to renegotiate that price, or they move in and there's a major issue and they didn't understand that they were taking on all of that themselves. So making sure that you're practicing and not malpracticing on your clients, that's a big one. Understand the listing contract or the offer to purchase. That's huge. If you're aiming for listings, that's a really great way to grow your business and really important in this market. Understanding the listing contract, that's a big one too. So it comes down to these basic things. Your personal goal, that really depends on what's driving you, what you have going on in your life, what you know you need to be focused, positive energy, motivated in your life. You know, for me, I got to make sure I sleep 8 hours or I'm a total crab. I also have to make sure that I'm eating healthy. Like if I get off course with my health, then I become a slug and everything else kind of falls apart. So building something off of that, like what's going to make you your best you for your business and for your life. I think those are good things to grow off of. If you need something that's really going to hit you in the gut, go back to figuring out what your why is. Make that a project goal. It probably won't take you the whole quarter, but like, why am I doing this? What is the purpose? Why do I need to make this much money? Why do I want to grow my business? Why did I decide to do this? You know, for me, it's, I want to contribute to my community. It's the thing I talk about that makes my eyes water, that gets me so excited and jacked up that I want to like run around the block, because I want to make as much money as I can to benefit my community. That's my why. It's got to be something like that. Do you have kids? They're probably your why. Whatever it is, it should be really grabbing you and pushing you forward through the hardest of times. That's got to be behind your production goal, right? I need to make this much money so I can help my kids get through college. This is super important to me. I didn't get to go to college, whatever it is. It's got to be really hitting you in the gut. Super important. This is my why. Having a reminder of that somewhere is a good idea too, because you are going to get knocked off course. You are going to get beat up by this business. You're going to come across jerky clients and jerky agents and jerky appraisers, and you're going to have something to get back to. And if the 3 goals aren't that compelling, then it's got to come down to what is the reason behind those goals. That's what's got to pull you out of that pit and get you back on track. That mindset piece is so huge. Yeah, Amy, go ahead.
Let's see here. 2 things. So I have some buyers and I've taken them out on a couple of showings, and then those didn't really work out, but then I'll send them emails and other homes as well. And they basically ignore me. So I just want, and my husband is like, you're in sales now, people don't return calls. So is that your experience? And then I have another question too.
So for me, I'm constantly reevaluating the motivation of my clients. It's super important to understand that from the get-go, which is why that buyer consult's so important, is understanding like, what's your timeline? Why do you want to move? What's your motivation for doing this? What are you looking for? Because there could be many pieces in that conversation that tell me very clearly they're not going to move quick, or what they're looking for doesn't exist in this market, or they're probably not the type of personality that's going to handle this market well. So I'm either going to have to be super proactive in handholding, or I'm going to have to be very honest with them that this is going to be tough and just see if they're ready for it. So in some cases, they might not be there yet, and that might not have anything to do with you. It might just be where they're at in their life. If you had that information and it's been a little while, maybe it's changed. Maybe they re-signed a lease, maybe something changed with their job and they don't want to talk about that stuff. So they've just fallen off. So just checking in and saying like, you know, when we started, this is kind of where we were at. This was when you wanted to move into your new home. This is what we were going for. You know, this is your motivation. How are those things going? Like, has your lease changed? Has anything changed? You know, since we haven't been out in a while, I wanted to just double check, see how I could best help you in this market. Sending listings is usually a good way to get people to react. If you send it in an email through MLS, you can set it so that you're alerted when they open it, so that you at least know they opened it, even if they don't write you back. And then when they open it, you can text them, hey, did you see that, whatever I sent over? And then you know that they're opening. You don't have to say like, so my, you know, behind the scenes, I found out you were looking at that right now. That's a little creepy. So just say like, hey, I was just thinking about you. I'm like, oh my God, I was just looking at your email. Great. If they're not, fine. You're going to have eggs in your nest that don't hatch. Like, do what you can to consistently check in with them, but don't focus all your energy on those buyers. Keep more buyers coming in, keep the momentum going. Don't get stuck on those people. You know, this market's hard. So checking in and doing those emotional, how are you doing, can go a long way without even talking about real estate, or saying like, here's how we're going to regroup. This is our plan. Or, you know, this is how many new listings came out this week. Like, I think we've got some momentum here, you know, being that cheerleader. So there's other things you can do to check in, but if you're getting no response, you know, keep them on your drip campaign, keep sending them MLS listings, keep checking the hot sheet and sending them things. You know, after a couple of weeks, just do a hello, how you doing, check in. But there's going to be people who just fall off, or turns out they're going to wait a year, or you never know. So it's easy when you start to get so intentional and focused on like one person or a few people that you miss all the ones coming around you. So don't get too caught up if somebody's kind of fallen off course. Don't forget about them, but put some energy into connecting with more people.
Okay, and then I had another question.
Yeah.
So I do a pretty good job with my social media. I feel like that is a strength of mine. And then I use Command to send out an email to my database. And I'm doing that about once a month because I don't want to bother them too much. Is that a good amount of time, or would it be okay to do more, or what do you think?
So personally, I hate email. So I try not to do more than I need to. I feel like a lot of people just have overwhelmed email inboxes. I think if you do something of real value, then it would be worth sending. And that's really what it comes down to for me, is not how often I'm doing it, but how valuable what I'm sending is to my clients. Are they opening it? Are they unsubscribing? Do they talk about it? Do I use that as a first touch before I follow up with a phone call or a text or something in the mail? Does it have an intention behind it? Like, what am I trying to accomplish with that? Or what am I offering with that? I think just sending an email for the sake of sending an email. Yeah, I mean, arguably you end up in their inbox, so they see your name, but you could also end up in their inbox and be an annoying email they have to delete. So making sure it's something that's going to be worth looking at, that's not super heavy, long, involved, but just like a quick, easy thing. Yeah, sure. But I think there's other things you can do in addition to that, that get you to that complete, full person-to-person contact. And that's really what you're going for. Good question. But yeah, I would say some of those automated things are great because you need that going in the background. But then how you add on top of it, I think, is the next step. Same thing with MLS subscriptions. Get them on those. Get those going. Make sure it's set up so you're alerted when they open them. but then, you know, still check in one-on-one. Those are good. Well, I am looking forward to having the opportunity to do a little more workshop style classes. It's what we were doing pre-pandemic, and they will have themes and some information at the beginning, but then have some, you know, hands-on time to really put these things into practice. You know, I expect that you're doing that after class every time we do these classes, but I know you aren't. So that would be a good way to just make sure that you're starting and getting some momentum with that stuff. So I'm hoping that's what we can do. I'm hoping that that will be by June. We're working on all that in the background with the leadership team. But in the meantime, I think you've got a little time. So at least start your brainstorm of what are your top 3 things going to be. At least go into command and figure out how many initial leads you need to get yourself to that number of sales closed for the year for that GCI goal. You know, start doing some of those things, because those are important steps to get you towards those goals. You know, setting up the goals is part of the goal. So this is why we start early. Get those really in place, make them very clear, have them be measurable, have them be very specific. And then, you know, then you've got the time once the quarter starts to really jump in and start doing those things. So that is forthcoming. And I hope that what I've shared today is enough for you to start getting that stuff in place. It's what I've been doing for the second half of the year. It's what I've been doing for the next quarter. It's a very important project. As the CEO of my business, that is one of the important things I do for myself and my team. And so I'm going back and revisiting that. We've already set our quarterly goal for productivity as far as number of clients we want to close this quarter upcoming. So I'm going to revisit those numbers, see where we're at. And then I'm going to go back to what's my project goal? What's my personal goal? How did I do last quarter on those things? Do I need to keep working on the personal goal from last quarter? Yes, I do. I'm going to make that my another one for the next quarter. Okay, fine. How am I going to make sure that actually happens this quarter? So it's, you know, it's all a process. It's never perfect. There's no judgment. This is just you setting yourself up for success so that you know what you need to focus on. That's what it's about. And it's for you. You don't have to shout it from the mountaintops unless you want that kind of accountability. Otherwise, what other people think are your goals, who cares? If what you're accomplishing is what you need to accomplish, is what's getting you to live the life you want to live, that's all that matters. Who cares if it's 100 sales or 10? It's your goal. So just get it in place and then make a plan and follow it. Those little bitty steps, that first domino, that's what gets you to those much bigger accomplishments. So it's really that straightforward. So thank you for coming. I hope you have a wonderful week. This weather is going to be awesome, though a little rainy, but it should be some great new energy to go into, you know, full-fledged spring and nearly summer before we know it. So I hope you take the time to set these things in place before you get swept away by all the fun and all the outdoor things. And if you would like some accountability, you can always set up an accountability call with me. Just shoot me a text and I am happy to set that up with you as well. Thanks again. Have an awesome week.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.